Come join our family of 6 on our 2-week, 1,870-mile road trip in our modified Lance 2185 travel trailer from Utah to Arizona and back to see the Parowan petroglyphs, the Valley of Fire, Lake Mead and the Hoover Dam, Lake Havasu, Quartzsite, Friends in Phoenix, canyoneering near Tortilla Flat, Goldfield Ghost Town and Mine, Sedona, Arizona, the Grand Canyon, Horseshoe Bend, and the Coral Pink Sand Dunes before driving through snow back home. This is our first big road trip after all our modifications to make our travel trailer fully electrically powered by 2,650 watts of solar panels on the roof and 9.6 kilowatt hours of lithium iron phosphate batteries, as well as Starlink for internet connectivity. Click on the card above to watch the overview video of all our modifications, which enabled us to never use our generator or any propane throughout the entire trip. This was also the first trip with James, who was born 9 weeks before we departed. Being in February, we used our heat pump mini split for both heating overnight in below freezing temperatures in Utah and a little bit of cooling in Quartzsite, Arizona. Throughout the trip, we only boondocked on free public lands with one exception of mooch-docking in a friend's driveway in Phoenix. Come join us while we explore beautiful new places and test the performance of our fully sun-powered travel trailer in the real world. How did you sleep last night? Lydia, how did you sleep?
Good.
What about the wind?
I didn't even hear it.
Did you notice the wind, Lucy?
I heard it all night.
Sarah, what about you?
What?
Did you notice the wind last night?
Yeah.
Did it wake you up?
Yeah.
But how did you sleep last night? Good. That's great. This is our view today from out of the trailer window anyway. It's not as striking and interesting of desert terrain as where we've been the last several nights, but it's a free place, and considering we got here in the darkness, it's good that we found a place. We have one neighbor over there, some kind of converted school bus it looks like. We're gonna go on a tiny little hike. We're gonna go up to that knoll right there. The girls wanted to explore this area just a little bit before continuing our drive north. I decided to take them up this nearby ATV trail that looked like it went to the top of the nearby hill, but it ended up just going around the peak and not to the top. Hey Lydia, are your legs cold?
Yeah.
Yeah? How come you're wearing shorts?
Because I want to.
It's actually not terribly cold. It's like 55 degrees or something, but it's windy. However, the sun is warm, so that does help to counter it. We decided just to go on a short little hike because the kids were getting a little stir crazy in the trailer, and we're getting ready to leave to go to our next camping spot, which is about an hour north, closer to Sedona, Arizona, where we're then going to do some hikes. And I'm hopeful that it's a good spot and maybe we'll stay a couple of nights, but I'm not totally sure about that. And on this little hike, we have a special guest of James here, so that Jessica can get a break. Because the trailer is awesome, but when you're with little kids in it for a couple of weeks, well, I guess right now it's been like 10 days or something, it starts to wear on you a bit. Oh, Claire fell down. Are you okay? There's the freeway over that way, if you can see the vehicles moving back and forth. And here's the view from up here. This is a steep part of this OHV trail. This would be gnarly in an ATV. Careful, Clara. Good. Oh man, Lucy and Lydia are nearly to the top of the other side already. It's a really steep hill, huh, girls? Here's James. He immediately fell asleep, of course. You're almost to the top, girls. Top of the steepest part, anyway. Yay, you did it! This is sad. People coming and just dumping their garbage in the wilderness. Very unfortunate. I've seen it several times on this trip already. After our hike, we packed up and drove north 50.5 miles, which took slightly over an hour to get to Forest Road 525, which is a well-known boondocking location close to the recreation mecca that is Sedona, Arizona. In my research, I found 2 other locations that are 2.5 to about 10 miles farther south from Sedona that we could have gone to if this road had been full. The washboards on this road are really annoying. This is Forest Road 525 near Sedona, Arizona. And we're just looking for a spot to camp. There's quite a few people here already, but there are openings, so I know we have a spot if we need it. We're just trying to find a good spot. This spot right here looks like maybe where we're gonna have to camp. There's some openings. There's definitely lots of other people here though, so it's not gonna be distanced camping. This entrance right here is pretty dang steep, so I'm not gonna try that. We'll go to the next entrance. We've arrived at our campsite, or at least we found one, and we've set up the trailer. And looking here at the energy system, we are getting just over 1700 watts of solar at the moment, and our battery is at 80%. And right now it is 11:30 a.m. Let's show you this area. We are pretty pleased with this spot. There's a little bit of a dry wash here behind it. There are rigs close by for sure, but not as close as it could have been, depending on where else we would have parked. And we found a quite level spot here. It doesn't have any parking on either side of it, so we won't have any really close neighbors, and our closest neighbors is this van right here. There's a big parking lot here that there are more rigs that could definitely fit in here. And the other available spot was between this one and this one, was right there, and that would not have been as ideal, so luckily we were able to back down into this one. Girls, what are you finding? Really? Did you lose it?
Yeah.
We did use the Anderson levelers here a little bit,
And it's super tiny.
but it only brought up the tires like half an inch or so.
Tiny.
Here's the dry wash
Appreciate
behind.
and love you also.
Not terribly interesting, but I'm sure the kids will come down in here and explore. Hey Lydia, how do you like this campsite?
Good, but I can't get off of this stair.
Why don't you put your shoes on? The outside temperature, it shows as 61 degrees and 70 inside, but the sun is really hot, so it feels a lot hotter than that outside. I'm surprised it's only that. Were you just exploring the wash?
Oh yeah.
What did you find?
Rocks and grass.
Rocks and grass? Not very interesting, huh? Well, do you want to go on a hike? Okay, let's go talk to Mom and see if we want to go now. Are you dancing, Clara? Is that a nice warm spot of sun?
Yeah, Claire just tripped on me.
Quick status update. 93% on the battery, and we're getting 1800 watts of solar. And so we decided to go ahead and pre-cook some things because we have a lot of solar coming in and the batteries aren't going to be able to hold it all. And it's also getting kind of hot. It was just over 80 degrees a minute ago, and now it's dipping down because I just turned on the mini split. You can probably hear it blowing here. Nice and cool. And the girls are over here doing crafts. What are you making, girls?
Goats.
Can I see yours? Oh, is that a mountain goat or just a regular goat?
Mountain goat.
It looks great, Lucy. What about you, Lid?
That's not coming
You haven't made it yet.
Oh, the pile is over there.
Oh, what are you making, Clara?
Goat.
A goat too?
But she hasn't cut it out yet.
Cool, cool, girls. Here's the view out the window. Dinner looks great, Jess. What is it?
Chicken enchiladas.
Chicken enchiladas. Okay, so she's finished cooking dinner, and we also warmed up some things for lunch. And despite our best efforts, the battery is still up to 96%, and we're still getting 1800 watts. So it's going to be full real soon. And unfortunately, we're going to have to just let the energy go to waste. What do we eat for lunch, Lucy?
Pancake.
That's right. Leftover. Should we go on a hike now, Lid?
Nope.
Oh, I better finish eating so we can go on our hike, all right? It is now 1:44 p.m. and we just barely got to 100%. So the solar is ramping down its output because it has nowhere to go. But we're gonna go ahead and leave the mini split on, set to 65 degrees. And so it'll keep the cabin cool with what free energy we are getting. We are headed in to near Sedona, Arizona, and we're gonna be doing a hike. And we'll show you the trailhead when we get there. And we're pulling into Sedona, Arizona right now. The backdrop is definitely stunning. Those cliffs over there across the city are beautiful. We found it to a parking spot that luckily no one else took because there's a big culvert there, but we managed to straddle it. And this is where we're heading. Due to the conditions of the road and the parking and the crowds, there's no way we're gonna get to the Devil's Bridge, I think is what it's called. It's too far away, it's like 5 miles. So we're just gonna go exploring and hiking here in this beautiful countryside. Girls, are you excited for this hike? Yeah. All right.
Nope.
Girls, what did you find?
Shade.
Shade to rest in, huh?
Yeah.
We are on a small side trail off of the parking lot, the full parking lot that we weren't able to find a spot in. And so we haven't gotten that far yet, but it's still a really cool view. And the girls are already acting tired. We'll see how far we get on this hike. It's a lot cooler in here in the shade, huh? So we are now hiking on a trail to a vista point, and we'll look at this view and then we'll continue on down the trail for a while and we'll see how far the girls make it. Lucy, are you having fun yet?
Yeah.
What about you, Lydia? Are you having fun yet? No? How come? You want to do more climbing? Okay, we'll get there hopefully. This is a pretty cool view up here. What's your favorite part about this vista?
I don't know.
Hey girls, what are we doing now? Having a snack? What are you having for a snack?
Pretzels.
Yummy.
Vegetables too.
Oh, what do you have for vegetables?
Carrots and celery. Yeah.
Cool.
And water.
All right. Lucy, how do you like this trail?
I don't know.
What about you, Clara?
I like it because there's so much sand.
There's a lot of sand. We moved over to another spot that is a parking trailhead to Mescal Trail or something to that effect. Near the birthing cave, as they call it. And now we're in a wash.
Water! Yes, yes.
No, please.
Water.
Let's go up here. After a couple of hours exploring some trails in Sedona, we headed back to our trailer about a 15-minute drive or 10 miles south of town. And the damage this time, once again, 57 for 16.642 gallons. It's now 4:16 p.m. and we're back at the trailer and the battery's at 100%. Hey girls, are you all done with your goats?
Yes.
Can you hold them up so I can see them?
Mine's name is Booger Snot.
Oh,
I
lovely.
haven't named my goat yet.
I think a good
Okay.
name for a goat is Alfred.
Yeah, I want.
Let's see,
my
Clara.
goat. I gotta slice its horn.
Nice. Good job, girls. When we got back here to the trailer after our trail hiking, the inside was at 67, or is, I should say, and it's 68 outside, but the sun is quite warm and it would have been way hotter in here if we hadn't left the mini split on. We just started cooking something in the oven, and you can see the draw is increased dramatically on the battery, and it's down to 98%, but the solar jumped up as well, so we actually weren't at the full solar production potential. In any case, it's now pulling down the battery as we bake our dinner in the oven, which will be going for 20 minutes on the convection part of the microwave. Okay, after 20 minutes of baking, our chicken enchiladas are looking real good. And then up here, we were also heating up our canned corn, and the battery is down to 93%. So it took a chunk of energy, but we have plenty, so it works great. Are you excited, Lydia, to eat that? Well, you're getting too close. Our convection microwave worked great to heat up our dinner. Then we spent the evening hanging out at our campsite. Hey girls, what are you eating?
Ice cream.
We have some leftover from when we had our party with our friends, huh?
And you have some too.
Yeah. So I want to just point out real quick here, we got a whole gallon of ice cream. And it fits just fine in this freezer. We're able to put it right here, and it fits between here and here, just barely. Works great. This sunset time lapse is perhaps my most boring time lapse I've ever made, And there was a lot of dust kicked up from traffic on the nearby gravel road. This is clearly a really popular area, so we decided to move on the next day. This is the Victron monitoring portal that is showing all of the information from our trailer for this day of the trip, which was February 13th. If you've been watching my prior videos, you will notice that the interface looks a little bit different, mostly that it has these sub boxes up above now instead of on the right side where they were previously. Victron just changed their layout, so since I made the last videos. In any case, this graph here shows 3 different main categories of information throughout the day. This blue line is the state of charge of the battery. You'll see that there's some shaded area. It's more obvious over here, of course. And so within that shaded area, you have 3 indications. You have this diamond here on the top and on the bottom that shows how full the battery was during that hour of the day. Down here it shows how empty the battery state of charge was, and then the dot in the middle is the average for that hour. So when you see a larger band, it just means there's a larger change of state of charge of the battery during that hour, whether it's charging or discharging. And so if you look across here, you'll see that the battery was discharging throughout the night, and that discharging is coming from these red columns right here, which are obviously showing the battery being drained, and this is the consumption of electricity throughout the night. Now you'll see that every couple of hours there's a spike. It looks like it's about every 3rd hour, and that is, I believe, the water heater cycling on, and that's been pretty consistent throughout this trip. We've been just leaving the water heater on continuously. So the mini split is pulling about, well, actually very little, and then the water heater pulls a bunch. And then we get to the morning, we start to wake up, we're making breakfast and whatnot. So that's where these spikes of energy consumption come from. And then we pretty much stopped using as much electricity, and the solar starts to ramp up. So that's why the state of the charge of the battery is increasing so dramatically here. This is when we were cooking our dinner, so pre-cooking dinner around lunchtime. And so we were able to successfully use a chunk of energy, but the battery still ended up filling up, and I knew it probably would. But we figured we might as well use energy while it's available, get the food pre-cooked, and then we just put it in the fridge and chilled it, and then we reheated it in the evening when we came back from our hiking in Sedona. So up here, the battery fully charged here at 2 p.m. or during the 2 p.m. hour. You'll see that 96% is what it was when the 2 p.m. hour began, so it probably was fully charged by like 2:15 or something like that. It stayed fully charged for a couple of hours, and then finally we started discharging it here during the 5 p.m. hour, and then it continued to discharge throughout the evening, and that's from these swings of energy consumption here throughout the evening. These sub boxes across the top here, the 2 AC input, obviously that's always 0 in our case. That would be if we were sending electricity from our trailer to an external source through the AC input. We've never done that before. From AC input, that would be if we're plugged into shore power, to a generator, that sort of thing. We haven't done that since initial testing when the system was built, so that's always 0. So for consumption, we consumed a total of 7.2 kilowatt hours throughout the day, and our solar produced a total of 8.9 kilowatt hours throughout the day. Now the discrepancy there is probably a combination of inefficiencies of the inverter and things like that, because solar is directly coming in as DC and it's measuring that, whereas the consumption has to go through the inverter first. Some of our devices on board are DC devices, like our refrigerator, for instance, and all the low power consumption things like the slide out mechanism and lights and stereo, things like that. The consumption side is just simply always lower because of the efficiency and probably some other factors I'm unaware of. Now, just as a note of the energy, I kind of play a game. I try to get as much energy out of my trailer's solar system as possible. So that's why I talk about having the battery full and the solar that can't produce anymore. Obviously, it's not a problem. It just means you have a full battery. But I like to play a game where I'm trying to use as much energy from the sun as possible, so it's kind of fun to be able to use as much energy as we can to keep the battery from getting full. And in the long term, my intention is to tow this trailer with an electric truck, and so my intention is to send the excess electricity to that truck. But for now, we kind of just have to use the energy where we can from the devices on board the trailer that need electricity, which is all of them. We don't use any propane, but it's still, the battery still fills up even at this time of year, which is February, so it's still technically winter time and the days are short, but the trailer's solar rate on a sunny day is sufficient to fully charge the battery typically. And I get into that in more details in other videos, and I'll put a card above to a video where I talk about winter time, like the worst case scenario, the shortest day of the year, but at least sunny, and how much energy we get on that kind of a day. Hey girls, what day is it?
Valentine's Day!
That's right.
James kept hitting me.
What did you get for Valentine's Day?
Chocolates and Valentines.
We had some friends that sent us with Valentines before this thing started, huh? Before the trip started.
And we opened them today.
The temperature outside got quite chilly. It got down to 27.7 degrees. And I had the mini split on all night to 70 and then even a little bit higher, like 72. And the battery's down to 17% where it started at 80%. So definitely mini split heating all night takes a lot of energy. Lucy, your mouth is blue.
Me and Claire shaded our chocolates.
Oh, good job. Good bartering, girls. Hey, girls, what are you looking at out the window? Hot air balloons.
Looks like one's coming right towards us.
Yeah. You can see one right there by the sun, and there's like 3 others. That's pretty cool, huh, Clara?
Yeah! When can I ride in a hot air balloon?
I don't know. That would be really cool, though.
I can see 3 hot air balloons out this window.
Yeah. We are taking off, and we're going to be driving for around 2 hours, and we'll be stopping at a BLM spot that's up closer to the south entrance of the Grand Canyon. And looking at the trailer here, our battery is at 15%. It has been as low as 13% heating up water from showers this morning, and we're now getting 1264 watts of solar. We packed up and got on the road heading north. One big advantage to RV solar panels on the roof is that the panels charge the batteries while we're driving down the road. This road up here into this campsite is a little washboardy and uneven, but it's really not too bad. I've driven on far worse. But if you just go slow, the washboardy shouldn't be too bad. But we'll be back to the main highway soon, and then we'll continue on to the Grand Canyon.
Hey girls, look. Can you look up ahead and see this bridge?
Particularly in the
It's kind of going to be out Claire's window. Look out your window,
Kaz,
Claire.
as I've mentioned, is a scholar
we're
of
on the
magical
bridge.
forces.
It's a real steep road. And windy, sharp corners. But at least the corners are very wide. Wow, that is a really high view. And their truck dragged our trailer all the way up this. We drove up Highway 89A north out of Sedona, Arizona, simply because that's what Google Maps recommended, which usually works just fine for us. It worked out just fine in the end, but in this case I should have researched the route a little bit better. Even just zooming in, I could have noticed the obvious switchbacks on the map, which would have warned me this is a steep road. In hindsight, it would have only added 5 minutes of driving to head south first to I-17 north to Flagstaff. But that would have added 26.7 miles and thus additional cost in fuel despite Highway 89A being so steep. In general, I prefer scenic routes because we're not going as fast as the interstate speed limits typically anyway. In this case, there was no harm taking 89A with our size of trailer, but I can easily see where other people with larger RVs may want to opt for driving up I-17 instead. I enjoyed the views on Highway 89A, but never having driven it before, I was concerned we were going to get ourselves into a difficult situation. Luckily, it worked out just fine. I guess this is one of the joys of the journey, or rather stressors in my case. We're in Flagstaff, Arizona, and they have a free dump station here. There's actually several others, but this is the closest one, so we're going to dump and continue on our way. The damage of this fill-up is only $25 and 7.3 gallons. We had gassed up recently in Sedona, Arizona, but we were already at the gas station, so I figured we might as well top off the gas tank. Also, we were headed into an area of Arizona south of the Grand Canyon with minimal services, so it's always a good idea to head into those situations with plenty of fuel. We drove 64.8 miles up Highway 180 to our next campsite, which took us about 1 hour and 10 minutes. We camped on Forest Road 305, and there was another rig in the area that we had planned on camping based on the Google satellite view, so we moved farther away and found a good spot. All right, we are to our camping location, and I went out and scouted it on my one wheel, and this is probably the most primitive place we've been to yet, and we'll just be camping right over here. Here's the spot I found. Even came with the fire pit, but we're not going to use that. While I was setting up the trailer, the girls were off exploring the area. They were first attracted to the nearby snow still on the ground, and they had fun despite it just being a slab of ice on the ground, basically. They also attempted to climb the trees, but quickly discovered them to be pretty inhospitable and painful. While they were doing that, I flew my quadcopter to get the lay of the land, and like I said, this was one of the most remote areas we camped on this trip, with the fewest other humans around. This is also likely the flattest land we've camped on, with virtually no changes in terrain northward towards the Grand Canyon, which is surprising considering how dramatically the terrain changes at the Grand Canyon. Southeast of our campsite, there was a nearby mountain knoll with much higher mountains in the far distance. And we're having a movie night. You girls excited? It's our first movie night of the trip. Got my laptop hooked up to the TV here. This is the Victron monitoring portal for that day, which was February 14th. And this graph here shows a couple of different things. This blue line is the state of charge of the battery throughout the day. The red bars is the amount of electricity consumed throughout the day. And the orange bars are the solar production throughout the day. Now, this is in a hourly granularity. So for each of these points in time is showing all of that information for 1 hour. So up here you have, for instance, on this blue line, you have the diamonds on the top and the bottom, and that shows the minimum and the maximum state of charge of the battery during that hour, and then the circle in the middle is just showing the average. And so when there's a large change of state of charge in the hour, like over here where it's charging quickly, then the diamonds are farther apart, and when there's minimal change throughout the hour, such as this hour right here at 5 p.m., it was at 77%, the whole hour is just a single point of data. So starting over here at the beginning of the day, we started the day at 70%. So that midnight, right? That's where it was at midnight. And then throughout the evening, the state of charge slowly declined. And this, you'll notice, compared to the previous night, we have higher consumption because it's much colder at this camping location. So the mini split heat pump was warming the trailer throughout the night, and it was having to work harder to do so, using more energy. Now, here you can see we are using about 660 watt hours, and I'm doing that, the way I'm doing that is, you can see on the consumption here it says 0.66 kilowatt hours. So kilowatt hours, that's 1,000 watt hours. If we move the decimal place to the right 3 times, then that shows 660 watt hours. And so over the course of that hour, the average energy consumed was 660 watts, because a watt hour is just over the course of an hour. And so this is a much higher hour here than, say, this one next to it. And so sometimes the water heater is kicking on and is consuming more energy. So this gives you an idea of what to expect when we're all asleep. Really nothing's happening. We're not consuming electricity directly. It's just the mini split and the water heater pretty much that are consuming energy, besides maybe some vampire loads of small drains here and there. So by the time we woke up in the morning, the battery was down to 16%. And then there was this spike of consumption right here where we were cooking breakfast and we were waking up and doing who knows what. And so the battery ended up bottoming out at, looks like 13% for the day, before the solar started to then supply all of the needs of our current electrical demands. And you can see that our electrical demands dropped off pretty dramatically as we were traveling. So the battery was charging quickly during that time. And then over here we got to our next campsite and we were preparing dinner and charging batteries and using laptops and whatnot. So the energy consumption jumped up along this couple of hours, and at the same time the solar production was dropping off. So that's why the state of charge of the battery pretty much just rounds and levels off and then starts to decline throughout the evening. And our evening energy consumption was quite low. I've found that's typically the case because the day is cooling off and the set point of the temperature inside the RV is at kind of equilibrium with the outside for a while. Plus we have all that latent heat that's built up in the materials in the trailer. So it's not until middle of the night, past midnight like we saw this day before, where the energy consumption starts to increase as it's having to offset the cold temperatures outside with the heat pump on the inside. And then we ended the day here at, it looks like 66% throughout. And so we ended here the day at 66%. So we started at 67 and ended at 68. So if we look up here at the consumption side, you can see that throughout the day, all of the red bars on the graph added up consumed 9 kilowatt hours. And the solar production was 10.8 kilowatt hours. and yet you saw that the start and the end of the day was 1% different. So basically the battery did not increase or decrease hardly at all. And so really the difference between these is, I believe, just inefficiency, because the solar energy coming in is just counting that DC energy directly. But by the time that goes in and out of the battery and then through the inverters, our actual point of consumption is actually, we have lost 1.8 kilowatt hours in that time. Keep in mind our battery bank size is 9.6 kilowatt hours. So this right here would have fully charged the battery bank and then some. If we had not used any energy throughout the whole day, we would have charged the battery bank completely, and then the solar yield would have dropped off to nothing once the battery filled up, because it has nowhere to go. But that didn't happen because we were in the trailer using it and consuming electricity. In our next video, we visit the south rim of the Grand Canyon long enough to take in the sweeping vistas at a couple of different outlooks and take some family pictures. Then we continue on northeast 2.5 hours to the Horseshoe Bend overlook near Page, Arizona. There we hike to the overlook, seeing the amazing views and taking some more pictures before continuing on our trek west to our next boondocking location at the Coral Pink Sand Dunes in southern Utah. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.